The act sends undeniable tremors through Buckingham Palace and beyond. For decades, the traditions surrounding royal honors remained untouched, sacred, immutable, untouchable. And yet, Anne, known for her stoic loyalty to tradition, chose to disrupt that very system by stepping outside of its shadow and casting light upon a new air of meaning. It wasn't just any title passed on, it was the symbolic weight of the Princess Royal, a role held by Anne herself, with unshakable dignity. But what shocked the establishment even more was that alongside the title came whispers of the Spencer tiara, the very one made immortal on Diana's wedding day. Not only was it a nod to heritage, it was a deliberate revival of legacy. And who was chosen to inherit it all? Not the daughter of Prince Harry and Meghan, Lilibet, whose very name echoes Queen Elizabeth's childhood identity, but Charlotte, the daughter of William and Catherine, a child born not just into royal blood, but into the beating heart of the monarchy's future. The palace response, measured but unmistakably tense behind closed doors, courtiers scrambled to decipher the implications. Could this be a quiet declaration of succession favor? Was it a gentle but firm dismissal of the Sussexes' position in the royal orbit? Public opinion surged instantly. Headlines questioned the motives, while royal insiders speculated whether Anne was making a statement not only about the future, but about loyalty. This wasn't merely about jewels or titles. It was about alignment, positioning, legacy. Even seasoned observers were stunned. For years, the royal family's mantra had been unity, but this move suggested otherwise. It exposed cracks long covered up by polite ceremony and photo ops. By choosing Charlotte over Lilibet, Anne opened the door to 1,000 questions. Why now? Why her? And perhaps most compelling, what did she see in this child that made her worthy of such a powerful gesture? As the world reeled from the revelation, it became increasingly clear this was no random act of favoritism. This was calculated, deliberate, and deeply personal. Princess Anne, the woman often hailed as the crown's most dutiful servant, had made a choice that turned duty into declaration. And in doing so, she may have changed the course of royal succession forever. But to understand why Princess Anne chose Charlotte, we must first understand the woman behind this powerful move. She never sought the spotlight, but her actions have shaped the crown from the shadows. While others dazzled with titles, appearances, and public affection, Princess Anne stood as the monarchy's quiet spine, unbending, unshaken, and unrelenting in her sense of duty. For decades, she operated not at the front of the royal parade, but behind the scenes where real endurance is tested, where protocol isn't glamour, but grind. And in that grind, Anne earned something far more valuable than popularity. She earned respect, the kind of respect that doesn't come with applause, but with legacy. From the moment she was granted the title Princess Royal, a title reserved for the monarch's eldest daughter and steeped in history dating back to the 17th century, Anne knew the weight it carried. It wasn't just ceremonial, it was a symbol of female strength within a system ruled by men. She embraced it not with pride, but with responsibility, defining her reign with discipline, consistency, and a grit rarely celebrated by tabloids. And while her brothers chased headlines, Anne delivered results. She became the hardest-working royal year after year, not for praise, but because it was expected of her, and she demanded no less from herself. Yet despite this unwavering service, Anne was often overshadowed, underestimated, cast as the unglamorous one, the serious one, the royal without flair. But beneath that reputation was a woman of piercing intellect, sharp wit, and unmatched emotional stamina, a woman who endured heartbreaks of her own personal and political, and never once let the world see her falter. And while the world was distracted by drama, Anne paid attention. She watched, she learned, She remembered. Her loyalty was never loud, but it was absolute. Her devotion not to the crown itself, but to what the crown represents: duty, tradition, and the strength to carry on even when no one's watching. That's the code she lived by, and it's the same code she began seeing reflected in someone else. A child still growing, still forming, but already showing signs of that same resilience. In Princess Charlotte, Anne began to see echoes of her younger self. Not an appearance, but an attitude, a calm firmness, a maturity that didn't crave attention but carried an invisible strength. Anne never forced this bond. She simply watched, from balcony appearances to fleeting public engagements, from how Charlotte held herself during solemn ceremonies to how she responded to pressure without being rattled. Anne noticed. And with every quiet moment, her admiration grew. Not every royal is born to be loud. Some, like Anne, shape history by standing firm when others sway. And in Charlotte, Anne saw that same steel. Not brittle, but forged. Not rehearsed, but natural. She had held the title of Princess Royal with grace, and when the time comes to pass it on, she would not hand it over lightly. For Anne, legacy isn't about maintaining a name, it's about protecting values. And it's through those quiet moments of observation that Anne saw something extraordinary in young Charlotte. She may be third in line, but Charlotte already carries the presence of someone destined to lead. While the world's attention often dances between her older brother's future crown and her younger brother's playful antics, Charlotte holds her ground with a quiet, commanding grace that doesn't scream for attention, it simply earns it. In every public event, from official ceremonies to casual balcony appearances, she exhibits something rare: composure. Not the forced stillness of a child coached for cameras, but a natural steadiness that suggests she understands the weight of who she is, even if she hasn't been told outright. Observers often marvel at how a child so young can remain composed when surrounded by tradition, pressure, and thousands of unblinking eyes. But Charlotte doesn't just stand still, she listens. She absorbs. Her eyes scan the room, not with nervous curiosity, but with the poise of someone who sees more than she lets on. She moves with assurance, bows with precision, and responds to moments of silence or sorrow with a kind of intuitive empathy that feels deeply learned, yet entirely instinctive. During somber ceremonies, while others struggle to mask discomfort, Charlotte often outshines seasoned adults with her stillness. Her silence speaks volumes. And in those moments, comparisons to Princess Anne are not just convenient. They're unavoidable. Both women, one in her prime and one just beginning, share a rare ability to lead without demanding space. Charlotte mirrors Anne's grounded presence, her ability to speak powerfully even when she says nothing at all. Like Anne, she doesn't dazzle with theatrics, but rather anchors her family, subtly supporting those around her with an invisible strength. And perhaps that's what Anne saw in her, an echo of herself. Formed not from mimicry, but from something deeper, something inherited in spirit, if not yet in name. Within her family, Charlotte's presence is equally undeniable. Among her siblings, she is often the calm in the chaos. She doesn't command them, but she guides, whether gently steadying Prince Louis during Trooping the Color, or standing side by side with George in solemn unity. She radiates a maturity that belies her years. And this isn't rehearsed, it's real. Her siblings respond to her not because she plays the role of a second parent, but because her calm offers them reassurance in moments too overwhelming for their age. And it's not just behavior, it's leadership in its most foundational form. The kind that's born, not built. Charlotte doesn't merely fit into the royal mold, she's subtly shaping it, breathing new energy into old traditions without challenging them outright. In her, there is no trace of performance, only purpose. And for those watching closely, it becomes clear, Charlotte is more than the spare to the heir. She is the steel that strengthens the foundation, but Charlotte's rise isn't just seen, it's felt deeply through the bond that connects her to her late grandmother. It shimmered on Diana's wedding day, and now it may rest on the brow of her spiritual heir. The Spencer tiara, once the dazzling centerpiece of a royal fairy tale, has returned to the forefront of history, but not for the reasons anyone expected. For decades, it remained enshrined in the memory of a world that still mourns the people's princess. More than an accessory, the tiara became a symbol of grace, rebellion, and a mother's undying spirit. It was not forged for royalty, but for legacy, and now whispers grow louder that it is being prepared for a new head, one far younger, yet already bearing the weight of extraordinary expectations. Princess Charlotte, the story of the Spencer tiara, stretches beyond diamonds and aristocracy. It belonged to Diana's family long before she walked the aisle of St. Paul's Cathedral, a symbol of noble heritage passed through generations. But the moment it rested on Diana's head, its meaning changed forever. It wasn't just a family treasure. It became a beacon for those who saw something different in her. Vulnerability, courage, warmth. When Diana wore it, it didn't just reflect light, it reflected her soul, and since her passing, it has remained largely hidden, kept by her brother, Charles, the 9th Earl Spencer, a silent relic of a life cut short and a legacy never extinguished. Now, that legacy may be brought forward not through titles, speeches, or photographs, but through action. In quiet conversations behind closed palace doors, Princess Anne and Prince William have reportedly explored the idea of passing the tiara to Charlotte. Not for ceremony, not for glamour, but for meaning, because Charlotte, in her own gentle yet firm way, embodies a fusion of two of the monarchy's most compelling women, Anne's strength and Diana's soul. The gesture is not about inheritance, it's about identity, and more importantly, it's about continuity. For William, this decision carries unimaginable emotional weight. He isn't just a father making arrangements for his daughter, he is a son, reaching back into memory to give his child something he can no longer offer himself, a connection to Diana. To see his daughter wear the very tiara that once crowned his mother is to bridge past and present with one silent, powerful statement that Diana's light did not end, it simply found a new vessel. And for Anne, who stood beside Diana in duty and watched her navigate the labyrinth of royal life, the support of this gesture reveals a deeper recognition that Charlotte is not just worthy of Diana's memory, she is ready to carry it forward. The tiara is not just a crown, it is a commitment to the values Diana embodied, to the pain she endured, to the grace she never lost. And now in Charlotte, that commitment finds a new beginning. But with such honors comes controversy, and many ask, why not Lilibet? Two granddaughters, two vastly different worlds, only one walks beside the crown. While Princess Charlotte stands in the heart of royal duty, Lilibet Diana Mountbatten-Windsor lives oceans away, far from the pageantry, protocol, and relentless tradition of the monarchy she was born into. Hers is a life nestled in the quiet affluence of Montecito, where playgrounds replace palaces and the word princess means something different, softer, freer, less defined by history's burden. Raised by parents who made the audacious choice to step back from senior royal life, Lilibet has become more symbol than participant. She is the granddaughter of a future king, yet the winds of the monarchy barely stir around her. Harry and Meghan's decision to leave the royal fold wasn't just a relocation, it was a severing of ritual, structure, and expectation. They chose a new path, one paved with independence and conflict, privacy and controversy, and though they carried their titles into this new world, The bond to royal tradition grew fainter with each passing year. Lilibet was born into that silence. She inherited a name that carried profound weight. Diana, her middle name, meant to honor the grandmother she'll never meet. But names, no matter how powerful, cannot substitute presence. And in the halls of Buckingham Palace, her footsteps have never echoed. Her absence isn't spoken aloud, but it's felt. During royal ceremonies, balcony appearances, and national tributes, she is the unseen granddaughter. Not out of malice, but by design. The Sussexes' departure created a vacuum, and within it, the rhythm of monarchy continued without them. As Charlotte took on more public visibility, learning how to curtsy, wave, and carry herself like a future leader, Lilibet remained a figure of mystery. Her milestones, while celebrated privately, never intersected with the monarchy's ancient pageantry. Slowly, she became an outsider to a system she was born into, but never brought into. That growing contrast is no longer subtle. Charlotte, the child of the heir apparent, appears at events flanked by crowns and cameras. Lilibet, in contrast, grows under the Californian sun. Her experience is shaped by liberty, not lineage. And while both girls may share royal blood, only one is being shaped by royal expectation. That difference, cultural, emotional, and institutional, creates a symbolic chasm, not of favoritism, but of function, of presence, of purpose. And when the time came to decide who might carry forward Diana's most treasured heirlooms, it was not about exclusion, it was about alignment. The choice to pass down the Spencer tiara and the Princess Royal legacy was not a rejection of Lilibet, but an affirmation of where Charlotte stands, physically, publicly, permanently, the one walking in the shadow of thrones and duty. And while the world watches from afar, inside palace walls, something deeper was unfolding. In the echoing halls of Buckingham Palace, a private conversation changed everything. Away from the noise of ceremony and tradition, behind walls steeped in centuries of monarchy, Princess Anne sought out Prince William, not as the monarch's daughter speaking to the heir, but as a woman who had seen something too important to leave unsaid. Her words were quiet, measured, but laced with purpose. She spoke of Charlotte, of her quiet strength, of the subtle way she carries herself, never demanding attention, but always commanding presence. Anne, who had worn the burden of royal expectation for decades, saw in Charlotte a familiar flame, a strength that doesn't shout, but never dims. William listened. At first cautiously, the weight of royal lineage does not allow one to take such conversations lightly. But Anne's conviction was clear. This wasn't flattery, it was foresight. She wasn't merely suggesting a title for Charlotte in the future. She was placing belief in her, laying down a path shaped by trust, discipline, and a legacy only the worthy inherit. As Anne spoke of her own journey, how the title of Princess Royal had both defined and tested her, William felt something shift. The protectiveness of a father began to blur with the instincts of a future king. He saw not just his daughter's smile, but her purpose. Catherine stood nearby, listening. She didn't speak, but her silence was not passive. It was powerful. Her support had always been steadfast. But in this moment, it became something more. A silent confirmation that she too had seen it. The small acts, the maturity, the stillness in chaos. Charlotte, even as a child, had shown signs of a leader in the making. And now, with Anne's voice guiding the moment, William saw it clearly. Charlotte wasn't simply a royal child. She was part of something greater, a thread woven through generations of extraordinary women. Anne mentioned Diana only once. But it was enough, because that name Diana still lives in William's bones, not just his memory. And when Anne spoke of Charlotte's instinctive empathy, of her intuitive grace, it stirred something raw in him. He had spent years shielding Charlotte from the weight of that legacy, cautious not to place Diana's shadow on her young shoulders. But now he realized it wasn't a burden. It was a bridge between the past and the future, between what was lost and what could still be honored. It was more than a conversation. It was a torch being passed, not just from Anne to William, but from both of them to Charlotte. A recognition that the monarchy, if it is to survive, must be led by those who understand its cost. Anne had seen it in Diana, and now, decades later, she saw it once more in Charlotte. That moment in the palace didn't make headlines, but it redefined a future. Quietly, permanently. But even as titles and tiaras make headlines, the true moments shaping Charlotte happen far from the cameras. Not all history is made in the spotlight. Some of it whispers through childhood evenings. For Princess Charlotte, one of her most defining moments didn't unfold before photographers or at a grand ceremony. It happened in the quiet of a family room, where royal formality fades and only raw emotion remains. That evening, the palace had settled into calm. But Charlotte had noticed something that others had grown used to: the distance in her father's eyes. The weight of future kingship had pulled William away, little by little, even when he was home. And then, without drama or spectacle, Charlotte walked over and spoke the words no one else dared to say. She told him, plainly and honestly, that she missed him. Not the prince, not the heir, but her father. And in that soft voice, carrying the pure ache of a child's need for connection, she pierced through 1,000 years of royal silence. William didn't respond right away. The moment unraveled him. It forced him to look at himself not through the lens of duty, but through the eyes of a daughter who only wanted more time. And in that moment, it wasn't just Charlotte who showed maturity. It was William who felt the burden of his absence like never before. This kind of emotional intelligence doesn't come from rehearsals or protocols. It's nurtured. And behind Charlotte's gentle courage stands Catherine, a mother who has balanced royal tradition with fierce maternal instinct. She teaches not through fear or formality, but through grace. She allows Charlotte to be a child, while gently preparing her to become a woman of resilience. And quietly, steadily, Princess Anne has walked alongside them, mentoring not with words, but through example. Her approval of Charlotte goes beyond affection. It is an acknowledgement that this young girl is becoming someone truly rare, a royal with both spine and soul. Charlotte's growth hasn't just been measured in private. During emotional public events, especially after Queen Elizabeth's passing, her poise was unmistakable. She stood with her family, stoic, but never cold, focused, but not withdrawn. She understood the gravity of those moments, even when those older than her struggled to carry their emotions. And through it all, she was never alone. Her role within the family has become increasingly clear, not just as a daughter or a sister, but as a source of strength for those around her. She comforts her younger brother Louis not with scolding, but with calmness, steadying him with a look or a gentle touch when royal expectations overwhelm him. Even George, the future king, often seems to lean on Charlotte, seeking the quiet strength she radiates without trying. These moments are fleeting, often missed by outsiders, but they are the ones that truly reveal who she is becoming, because leadership is not declared with crowns or cameras. It is felt in the small moments that change hearts. But in a world of tradition and titles, can a young girl truly redefine royal womanhood? She bows to tradition, but walks with her own fire. In a monarchy defined by centuries of rigid structure, Princess Charlotte is slowly, quietly changing the tone. She does not rebel, she does not resist. Instead, she redefines choosing moments of grace and authenticity over robotic perfection. It's not about breaking protocol, it's about softening it. Charlotte represents the rare kind of royal who doesn't just understand duty, she humanizes it. And while she honors the institution she was born into, She doesn't let it erase who she is. That balance, delicate and difficult, is what sets her apart. Already, there have been flashes of a bolder spirit behind the royal smile. During formal ceremonies, where even the youngest are expected to behave with textbook decorum, Charlotte has shown she's not afraid to speak up. Whether it was gently correcting George during the Queen's funeral, or her now famous look that silenced press photographers during a public event, she displayed something that no crown can teach: instinct. The instinct to lead, not through command, but through example. It wasn't rehearsed, it wasn't staged, it was Charlotte responding with clarity, confidence, and control. These are not the actions of a child simply playing a role. These are glimpses of a leader being formed in real time. Her presence is evolving, not from a carefully crafted PR strategy, but from an inner steadiness that can't be manufactured. The public is beginning to see it, in how she walks beside her parents, not behind. In how she holds her siblings together, not for applause, but because it comes naturally. The monarchy has long thrived on image, on tradition, on lineage. But Charlotte brings something new: relatability. She doesn't just represent royal ideals, she reflects modern ones. Strength that is gentle, boldness that is thoughtful, authority that is earned through empathy. And yet, for all her modernity, there are echoes of the past woven into her story. The comparisons to Diana are inevitable and not misplaced. There is warmth in her demeanor, a deep emotional intelligence that reminds many of the late Princess of Wales. But Charlotte does not imitate. She does not live in Diana's shadow. Instead, she walks parallel to it, honoring her grandmother's legacy, not by copying it, but by understanding it. She represents the continuation of that spirit, with new language, new timing, and a voice entirely her own. Charlotte may not sit on the throne, but she is reshaping the monarchy just by being herself. Through every interaction, she brings a lightness that royalty rarely dares to show, and a quiet power that can't be ignored. She is the kind of royal the future needs, grounded in heritage, but unafraid to grow. This is not the evolution of a title. It is the emergence of a new kind of princess, one who commands not with pageantry, but with purpose. And while the world watches her grow, Charlotte's story is being carefully shaped by those who believe in her the most. It's more than a title, more than a tiara. It's a legacy and a belief in what she'll become, in a monarchy built on succession and formality. Princess Anne made a choice that broke no rules but rewrote everything. Without fanfare or public spectacle, she made her final, most personal royal gesture, placing two of the most sacred symbols in royal womanhood into the hands of a child who had quietly proven she was ready. The title of Princess Royal, earned through decades of discipline and devotion, and the Spencer tiara, a jewel so emotionally powerful, it once symbolized an entire generation's love for Diana. Together, they became Anne's parting gift, and Charlotte's quiet inheritance. This wasn't about tradition for tradition's sake, it was about meaning. Anne knew the weight of these honors. She had worn them, lived them, and protected what they represented. And when the time came to pass them forward, she didn't choose based on birth order or public opinion. She chose based on character. She chose the girl who stood tall during grief, who showed grace amid scrutiny, who led her siblings with calm when chaos threatened to swallow them whole. In Charlotte, Anne didn't just see potential, she saw a continuation of everything that mattered. What makes this legacy so profound is not just what Charlotte is being given, but how she has been raised to carry it. Her upbringing under the firm, yet nurturing guidance of Catherine and William has been radically different from royal heirs of the past. There is structure, yes, but there is also freedom, empathy, encouragement to speak, to question, to feel. Charlotte is not being shaped into a symbol. She is being formed into a person first, and that humanity is what will allow her to wear the title and tiara with purpose rather than pretense. Diana's spirit lingers not only in Charlotte's name, but in the way she moves through the world. Anne, who once stood beside Diana with respect and complexity, has now offered her blessing not through words, but through action. She has given Charlotte something priceless, the validation of two legacies converging into one future, a silent but seismic passing of the torch. And in doing so, Anne has done more than honor a child. She has defined what modern royalty can look like. Charlotte is not merely a royal daughter. She is a bridge between old and new, between duty and soul, between Diana's warmth and Anne's strength. And with every step she takes forward, she carries with her not just what was, but what could be. Her journey is only beginning, but the path is already lit by love, legacy, and quiet strength. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you in the next one.